Welcome everyone back to the Real News Network. I'm Jared Ball here in Baltimore. Back again for his segment on political prisoners facing reality is Jihad Abdulmumit. Jihad is a former political prisoner and the member of the Black Panther Party and is currently co-chair of the National Jericho movement. Joining him also by phone is Dr. Tekla Agbala Ali Johnson, who is also a former co-chair of the National Jericho movement, professor at Johnson C. Smith University, and author of Free Radical, Ernest Chambers, Black Power and the Politics of Race. Welcome to you both back to the Real News.
Thank you, Brother Jared. Appreciate it very much.
Sending out my greeting.
Audience.
So earlier this month, on the 11th, we lost one of the Omaha Two, Mondo We Langa, who had been locked up since 1971 with his comrade Ed Poindexter. Please tell us briefly about Mondo, the case, his death, and what's going to happen next. And Jihad, we'll start with you.
Yes, Mondo We Langa was one of the freedom fighters that we represented on with the Jericho Amnesty Movement organization, and him and his comrade Ed Poindexter, they are known as the Omaha Two, and their case started around 1970, and the Jericho movement started in 1998, and we've been representing them ever since that time. And as you said, he passed away March the 11th, and now we're trying to organize for his memorial so that all of his life, the contributions that he made to our liberation, our freedom, our self-determination, and some of the things that we benefit today as Black people, we can kind of memorialize them, and you'd be able to utilize them for our future movement and growth and development. Yes.
Tekla, could I ask you also somewhat of a similar question? Could you tell us a little bit about Mondo and just briefly about the case that landed him in prison as a political prisoner, and then talk about what has happened to him subsequent to that incarceration, leading up to his unfortunate and untimely death while still behind bars?
Yes, it really started with police violence in the community of Omaha, Nebraska, and I'm from the community. So this is a situation that I actually knew about when I was just a child. There had been many police killings, but at one point, a 14-year-old girl named Vivian Strong was shot in the back of the head by the police playing in the project. Mondo had already been very vocal, but at this point, he opened a school in his house called the Vivian Strong Liberation School, and demanded justice from the city for the young girl's death in terms of the firing of the police officer, changes to the police department, some of the same problems that we are facing today. He was threatened. He was called into a grand jury trial, asking the purpose of the school, told to close the school down. He refused. Within 8 months, he was accused of murder of a police officer and stood trial. And though he proved that he had an alibi, he was somewhere else, they decided to change the charge to conspiracy. So though he was not there, and of course we know today that this happened to Black Panther Party members across the country, that they were accused of police deaths in order to incite the public against them. And so he served the next 45 years in prison from the age of 24 up until his death last week on March 15th. He spent the next 45 years in prison.
You know, I know we don't have the time to give it its proper due, but, in reviewing his case in preparation for today's interview, I was struck again by just how really amazing the trial was and the flip-flopping of the one key witness the prosecution had. And it was reminiscent of a lot of, somewhat, Tekla, as you mentioned, reminiscent of many other cases faced by political prisoners in the Black Panther Party, most, maybe not as famous as Mumia Abu-Jamal or Assata Shakur, but when you look at the details of this case, it's remarkable that he could have even been convicted in the first place. Could you just say a brief word or two about that as well?
Well, absolutely. We actually know now that J. Edgar Hoover, who was then the director of the FBI, had a plan to use teenagers and those who and others outside the party to try to incriminate the leadership, to try to bring them down that way, because they had such a loyal base of members. So they tried to infiltrate it in this particular way. And we know J. Edgar Hoover wrote notes about how he was going to use teenagers, and that is, in fact, what he did in this case. He got a 15-year-old, incarcerated him, isolated him, and tried to force him to say that these men had been the ones who had told him to plant a bomb. He got on the stand and said it wasn't true. They took him out. They called a recess. took him out, brought him back, and our state senator, who happened to be there at the time, said he came back, looked like he'd maybe been beaten up or roughed up, tears, dark-colored glasses on, covering his face, and now this time he came back and incriminated the men. It was so shady that they even listened to the 911 call that the men were supposed to have made, did a voice comparison tape. Years later now with a voice expert, and found out it wasn't the voice on the tape of even the young boy. It wasn't his voice. He said the men told him to call, make a 911 call, lure the police to his death. It wasn't the young man's call. So we know that the whole story is a lie. We know that these guys were victims of the movement by the program by COINTELPRO, by J. Edgar Hoover to get rid of the Black Panther Party by illegal means, and there's been no redress. In fact, a judge, Judge Erbaum, I believe it was a district judge in Nebraska, he in 1975 he saw problems with the case, and he said they needed to retry or let him go. They did not do either. The state appealed, and the discussion, the debate went all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, who then refused to hear the case on its merits. It was sent all the way back to state court, and never have they had a real chance at relief again. We've tried medical release. We've tried some other things. Amnesty International has said that these guys need to be let go or retried. The trial was kangaroo court, flim flam, and yet, with all this evidence that they were innocent, Mondo had to die in prison, and Ed is still there in his 45th year.
Well, I know that you both are making preparations for the memorial service coming up. Could you say a little bit about that? And if there's anything in the offing coming up related to Ed Poindexter's case, please let us know about that as well.
Definitely. We are, there is a whole team of people from all across the country planning the memorial. We expect some dignitaries, all of whom we will not name, but we will tell you that representation from the Black Panther Party will be there to give him his rights from the party. That we will have, of course, Brother Jihad will be there representing Jericho in his place as one of the many political prisoners across the country he's going to represent, as well as one of the persons imprisoned in the mass incarceration of our people in general, of which the political prisoners are just the very, very top of a huge mountain of African American people and Latino people and Native American people who are in this incarceration system. And so we resist all of that. Mondo resisted it to the end. We'd like to have he wrote a Pan-African anthem that we'd like to have presented there. Of course, it will be a cultural event. It will be at the Malcolm X Center in Omaha, Nebraska on March 26th. Is coming Saturday at 10 a.m. We hope to have some growth in terms of knowledge of the community, a recommitment to fighting against police brutality, which is for which this young man had given his life to fight against police brutality and abuse and murder of colonized people, African people in this country.
Well, Dr. Tekla Agbala Ali Johnson and Jihad Abdulmumit, thank you both again for joining us here for Facing Reality and a political prisoner report here at The Real News. Thank you very much again for joining us.
Okay, thank you, brother. Thank you, Brother Jared.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us wherever you are. Again, I'm Jared Ball here in Baltimore, saying for all involved, as Fred Hampton used to say, to you we say peace if you're willing to fight for it. So peace, everybody, and we'll catch you in the whirlwind.